everyone, this is lesson 1-4 for Algebra 2A, and this is going to cover quartiles and percentiles. I am going to take this lesson and divide it into a couple of shorter videos. It's not that the content is really all that difficult, but just so that the video is not too long for you to watch all at one time. So this first video, I'm going to kind of just focus on this top part dealing with the 5-number summary and how to do a box and whisker plot, and then we'll start fresh with a new video for percentile down here. So quartiles, percentiles, 5-number summary, all of those things are really talking about taking a data set and dividing it into chunks, manageable chunks that you can then interpret in some way. So the 5-number summary, you actually already know part of it. The first piece of the 5-number summary is the median. And so if I'm looking to find the median of this data set, let's see, I think there's 10 here. Let me double check. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. So if I want the median, half of 10 is 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The median's going to fall right in between here because that way I have 5 on this side, 5 on this side. So median, let's see, halfway between 12 and 15. 12 plus 15 is 27. Half of 27 is 13.5. So that's the first value that I care about, okay, is the median. Next up, I'm going to work with what's called quartiles. And I'm not sure if you have done anything with quartiles before, but essentially quartiles take your two halves of data and split them in half. So the first quartile is like the median of this lower set of data. So when my median's in between two numbers like that, I don't include that number, but I include everything on this side. So I'm looking at 4, 5, 7, 8, and 12. And essentially I want to cut that data in half. Well, the halfway point of that data would be the 7, and we're going to call that Q1. Okay, so that's quartile 1. That's the lower quartile. Okay, when I go up here, 15, 17, 17, 18, 20, the halfway point of that data would be the 17, and that is quartile 3. Now, that's a little bit weird that I did quartile 1 and quartile 3, but completely skipped over quartile 2. Quartile 2 is technically the median. Okay, so there is a quartile 2, we just call it the median. Okay, so really what we've done here now is divided our data into 4 chunks. We've got this set of data, we've got this set of data, this set of data, this set of data. And that's what's going to be reflected here in our box and whisker plot in just a second. Now, I promised you a 5-number summary, and so far I've only shown you 3, quartile 1, the median, and quartile 3. The other things that we're concerned with in a 5-number summary are the minimum and the maximum. Okay, minimum and maximum. And so these 5 numbers right here make up your 5-number summary. That's also what's going to be reflected on your box plot. Now, I apologize. I'm not sure if you have done box plots before or not, so I hope that I'm not like crawling through this for you. Once you've seen a box plot once, usually it's pretty easy to recall how to do it, but want to make sure that we're clear on it. So these 3, my 3 quartiles, that's what's going to make up my box. So at quartile 1, the 7, I'm going to draw a vertical line. At the median of 13.5, I'm going to draw a vertical line. And at quartile 3, I'm going to draw a vertical line. And then I'm going to connect these 3. Okay. And what that's showing me is that's showing me the middle chunk of my data. This is showing me how spread out the middle 50% of my data is. Because really this represents 25% and this represents 25%. Then we have to deal with our lower and our upper quartiles of data. So at my minimum of 4, I'm going to put a dot. And my maximum of 20, I'm going to put a dot. And then I will extend a line, otherwise known as the whiskers. I don't know why. I didn't name this thing. But that's what's called a box and whisker plot. And so every piece of this plot represents 25% of the data. So 25% of my data is in this range. 25% is here. 25% is here. And 25% here. Okay, One more quick thing to throw at you here, and I'm going to tell you what this is here, but we're going to go on and use it probably in a subsequent video later on. The interquartile range is this range in here. So we've talked about range before as being the difference between the minimum and the maximum. That's the range of your data, okay? The interquartile range is the difference between Q1 and Q3. It's that middle 50%. And again, I want to kind of keep driving that point home, because there's a lot of data analysis we do with that middle 50% of data. But this is always going to be Q3 minus Q1. Okay, it's the difference between Q3 and Q1. And there's a very important use for this interquartile range measurement that, again, we're going to get to later on. One more quick thing before we move on to percentile. Back in reference to this 5-number summary idea, we were able to find this pretty easily because this is a fairly small set of data and it's all nicely laid out in order for you and everything. But if this was a large set of data, or if it was, just random numbers all scribbled down there and not placed in order for you, doing this by hand would be a lot harder. So I do want to show you how you can find this 5-number summary on your calculator. Your calculator will do all of this work for you. And again, looking at this, you may think to yourself, well, that wasn't that hard. Why do we need our calculator? But when you get into messier data sets, you will probably want to know how to do this. So in your calculator, we're going to start with the stat button. Okay, this is kind of where we left off during the first half of this chapter. We're going to go to edit, and we're going to enter our data set in list 1. Now, you could also do this with that whole frequency thing that we talked about, but for us, because this is just a simple data set, we're just going to list them. So 5, 7, 8. Okay. Oops, I did a 50. I meant a 20. Okay, and then we're going to run those one variable stats. And I believe we were doing this already for, gosh, I don't remember what. I know we used this before, but I'm going to go back to stat, over to calc, and I'm going to choose this first option, one variable statistics. Now, on my calculator, it just blinks right there. I'm not using that list 2 option, so I'm just leaving this blank. If your calculator is one of the newer ones that has the screen that asks you about a frequency list, I would just make sure the frequency list spot is left blank, okay? So when I hit enter here, this is my mean, this is my sum, that's my standard deviation. We'll be talking about that in another lesson later this week. But what I really care about is what's down here underneath this arrow. I'm going to scroll down. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see minimum, Q1, median, Q3, maximum. That right there is your 5-number summary. Minimum, Q1, median, Q3, maximum. So under one variable stats, if you scroll all the way down, it will give you the entire 5-number summary. And then those are what translates directly into your box plot. Okay? All right, now we'll move on to percentiles.